Hey, Kent, just a few minutes on a video here to give you some intro into process here. The whole concept is a competitive messaging strategy ideation. So it's the idea of ideating, brainstorming around claims created to drive differentiation, but with the real focus on design from the customer's point of view. This is stuff you already know. I mean, periodically evaluate strategy and messaging because of the changing market, because of the fact that we invariably get stuck in past strategy in organizations, and also the challenges we see all the time with internal alignment. These facts apply to all companies, most every company we've ever dealt with, just universal challenges. Great quote from a book by Dixon and Adamson on challenger sales. Well-known manufacturer, leader of marketing, says we got hundreds of value propositions out there in our organization alone. How do we bring them together? So the keys, we believe, are creating a deep break from current practice, from the current point of view, to look more deeply at the customer's point of view. Common language turns out to be a really important concept, and also the team ownership of the process is very, very important and helpful. So 4 steps we would look at. Common goal is defining specific concepts or point of view around a customer. Consensus assumptions means getting everybody to get their models out on the table for what they believe about customers and bringing them together effectively, and then leveraging that understanding to brainstorm in a very structured way to drive differentiation, and then engage the engagement of the team helps drive sharing, and also then wider communication of the outputs. Common goal comes in the form of a context statement, which you're familiar with. The notion that, for example, we'll grow revenue for Microsoft by a particular amount at the end of the year by creating more value, which is the key phrase here, for a particular segment of doctors. We don't just plug that in as a placeholder. Then does J&J for Techniques. By the way, this is a generalizable process, and we'll use the Microsoft case here as a means of illustrating. Finding consensus assumptions is really about getting at the core of the question: what matters to physicians when they're making choices in this area, in the area of lenses. So example choice factors that may emerge. This is a process where a lot of stuff that's current to the market will come out, and we'll encourage everybody to think broadly and think deeply about the physician's perspective and maybe other new things that we hadn't thought about already. But common things would be product factors, surgical delivery factors, price factors related to price and payment, factors related to outcomes like recovery time and complication rates and resulting perception, quality of life, etc. Relationship factors, practice and brand. So we may have very specific claims related to product in here. We may also have more quality of life and benefit sorts of claims, and we're not limited to this list by any means. This is just illustrative. But part of those beliefs in the consensus model is, how does Microsoft currently differ from Techniques? So you remember that within the Venn diagram, we have the green zone here, or area A, as being Microsoft superiority to Techniques. Do doctors believe that we are superior on various factors? Do they believe that Techniques is superior to Microsoft? Are there unmet needs that neither brand is addressing? Very rich area that emerges in this analysis. Are there points of parity that we both meet effectively, important factors that we both meet effectively? And then there's non-value out here that emerges in this analysis that speaks to what we should not be talking about. Consensus assumptions also relate to kind of the overall picture of where do all the factors in the team's view, in the Alcon team's view, where do these choice factors reside in this model? On which do we believe we have benefit, unique value and points of difference for us? Which do the competitors win points of difference? What are the unmet needs, and so forth? The goal then is once that we've settled upon that consensus, and by the way, that exercise, just getting to consensus, is very eye-opening. Then having a brainstorming and ideation session around the areas of the model becomes the real the real engine of the whole process here. So looking at each area individually and all the choice factors, where do we find new value we can create, and where do we find the issues on which we should be messaging? Let's enumerate as many as we can, but then let's also evaluate, prioritize, and focus around a value proposition. Sharing is obviously critical as well, so we'll have various tools to help with that that process. So an example of form that summarizes value proposition as well as particular claims, as well as evidence basis for those claims. Just to revisit really quickly, deep break from customer point of view, common language, and the team ownership. Deep break is simply that we ask people to break away from their current perspective and step into that physician's shoes. A fresh look at what really matters, and it's invariably what happens here, to get people to step back from the day-to-day, and the team engagement is important. Using a common language is also critical. It doesn't matter what functional area you come from, you get a common way to talk about key strategy concepts through this framework, through the lens of this framework. And then the team own the analysis and so forth is critical to the overall design, and then carrying forward through execution of the idea. So here's what we were thinking, and I wanted to present this and then use this as a springboard to be able to talk about your thoughts on what ought to be considered or included in a SOW. So there's a necessity in the current process to first review where we are and review current plan and data, prep, get pre-work to team, workshop. In this case, this would be the 4/17 workshop. That you and I, at least you and I, would have a post-workshop review to look at the data that we got out of that all of that would be input into plan and execution, and then the sort of a circular process. So one of the things we need pre-SOW is to kind of get a sense of your planning process and for the brands and how we can kind of work into that. I also want to mention that an option here is external research that would help validate what came out of the workshop and would be an input into the planning process. Might also be an input subsequently, certainly, into other aspects here. And then certainly your idea of workshop that subsequently includes customers and helps and contributes to execution and also plays a validation role, I think, is important. I wanted to just throw that at you, get your thoughts on that, and then we'll spec out the SOW here in the next 24 hours. So thanks, Ken. Look forward to talking to you soon.